Deputy Press Secretary Steve Groves at the White House. Steve, welcome to the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Happy Friday to you. Thanks for having me on.
Steve, impeachment, this is like ratings are going down. This is Adam Schiff's, 3 hours of diatribe. I mean, I just can't get through. I have to watch it, part of my job. Like, I can't get through it. I'd rather go to the dentist. The stuff is so boring. They're going over the same things. I mean, they have no evidence. This is a clown show. I mean, how long is this going to go on?
Well, you and I are both required to watch this as part of our jobs, and we have our opinions. What's very interesting is that as part of the jobs of the 100 senators who are forced to sit there the whole time, you got to wonder what they're thinking at this stage of the game when they're hearing the same rote arguments time and time again, and the same, instant messages and, dissecting the president's perfectly normal phone call with President Zelensky over and over. They can't even sit there and drink coffee or have a beer. They're restricted to either drinking water or milk. And you gotta wonder about how long they can sit there and listen to the same thing over and over. I mean, as you said, the ratings are down, and it's because it's fairly boring when you're not hearing new information.
Well, Steve Groves, let me give you my assessment, and then I want to get your take on it, because they presented no new evidence, and of course for 3 weeks they said they had overwhelming evidence, and then they get to the trial, and then they say, we have no evidence, so now we need to get evidence, so we need to call all these witnesses because we have no evidence. So that was like hypocrisy number one. I just pointed out before we got you on, hypocrisy number two is Nadler, Hakeem Jeffries. They voted against the very aid to the Ukraine that they're now complaining about. I mean, Stephen, you can't make this stuff up. They voted against it. I just put it out on my site, TrumpNewsNetwork.com. They voted against the very aid that they're now complaining about got held over. So it was up to them. There wouldn't be any aid at all to the Ukraine. Because they voted no. How do they reconcile this? And why does the fake news media just give them a pass?
Well, we know the answer to the second part of your question is why they're getting a pass. They've gotten a pass for everything else that they've done when they've attacked the president since the moment he was inaugurated. In fact, one of the fake media, the Washington Post, put out an article within minutes of the president's inauguration saying, now the impeachment process against President Trump can begin. So no one ever expected to get a fair shake from the media. Hypocrisy is the coin of the realm among the Democrats and the Democrat managers. They voted against the Ukraine aid. I'll do you one better, though. Right. Even before the Ukraine issue was even known to anyone, 6 of the 7 impeachment managers had already supported impeachment against the president for any of the number of things. For not colluding with Russia, they wanted to impeach him. For making fun of Colin Kaepernick, they wanted to impeach him. 6 of the 7 on the floor now addressing these 100 board senators were in favor of impeachment before they could pick out Ukraine on a map. So, of course, the media gives them a pass on that as well.
It's simply the most egregious thing that I've ever seen. They get a pass, the total hypocrisy. But I just want to ask you this: they're going to the president's going to get acquitted. They don't have 67 votes. In fact, 2 or 3 Democrats are likely to vote no because there's no evidence. The whole thing is a waste of time. But to me, they've already admitted, Schiff's already admitted, look, we can't beat Trump in 2020 at the polls. Mm-hmm. So to me, they're taking 24 hours of earned media to do 2 things. One, try to convince enough Americans that he's not worthy of re-election. So it's kind of a free advertising. And number 2, I think they're protecting the federal administrative state that Trump has vowed to basically tear down in a number of ways, and they want to protect that because they keep talking about these washed up ex-diplomats, bureaucrats, statists, deep staters that don't agree with his policy, his America First policy. I mean, half of the arguments they've made are policy arguments that they're making on this made-for-TV thing that they're doing.
Yeah, it's always tough to divine the motivations of any other human being. Sometimes I don't even know why I do the things that I do. But you're right that there appear to be some trends arising that would reflect that their motivations. One is that, weeks ago or months ago, Congressman Al Green, let slip, hey, we have to impeach him because otherwise he'll win in 2020. Well, Al Green's, crazy part of the left, and everyone kind of laughed and let it slip. But on the floor of the Senate yesterday or the day before, Adam Schiff repeated it. He said, you 100 senators, need to convict the president to take him off of the 2020 ballot, because if you don't, he may win in 2020. This wasn't a throwaway comment on a cable show by Al Green. This was the lead impeachment manager on the floor stating clearly what their motivation is here, which is to interfere in the 2020 election and take away a choice that the American people can have. Donald Trump over whoever arises from the midst of that Democratic primary going on.
We're with Steve Groves, and Steve is the Deputy Press Secretary for the President of the United States, live at the White House. I got a text here from Cole from Chester. He says, I'm listening on the JF app live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He says, hey, weather here, overcast, drizzly, 68 degrees in Brazil and Sao Paulo. So thank you for that. Listeners all over the world. Back with Stephen Groves, and Steve is Deputy Press Secretary in the White House to President Trump. Steve, I want to talk a little bit about, we're getting a lot of action now from the GAO, Government Accountability Office. And in reality, for decades, both parties' administrations have criticized the GAO's findings. The Clinton administration openly rejected a report blasting the Pentagon strategy. The George Bush White House blasted it. The Obama White House repeatedly expressed its disapproval of GAO decisions. In fact, Obama said, we strongly disagree with the GAO's conclusion that the administration acted unlawfully. This was over the thing with the guns going to Mexico and the cartels. So all of a sudden now the GAO was raised up by the fake news media as the end-all, be-it-all, yet they've been blasted by Obama, Clinton, etc. What's the deal?
Well, there's a couple of things here. I know the GAO very well. When I was a staffer in the Senate, we would ask them to do studies for us. They serve a very good function, but they're a function of the Article 1 branch of government. So it's not a surprise that from time to time, when people ask them to come down with opinions about the use of executive branch power in Article 2 versus Article 1 power of Congress, they side with Congress. So that's all very well. And executive branch administrations of both parties have disagreed with their findings. We disagree with this one, and that's fine. They can have an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but it serves has no binding authority on anything. It's just, the legal opinion of GAO. I could line up three other experts and have variations on that opinion that completely disagree with it or agree with it in part. It's fine. They can wave that flag around, but it's neither here nor there when it comes to the president's impeachment.
How long is this trial going to go on, and are we going to get witnesses, Stephen Groves?
Remains to be seen. Of course, one would affect the other. If there were witnesses, it would be a longer trial. If there's no witnesses, it'll be a shorter trial. The president's goals from the beginning remain the same, which is to have a fair trial, one where he has due process rights that were denied him in the House, one where he has counsel to represent him that he was denied in the House. And so far that's happening in the Senate. Mitch McConnell has set out and voted through fair procedures. And it remains to be seen whether any witnesses will be called. It really comes down to a Senate vote that they're going to have at the end of these opening statements. But we hope that this can get wrapped up and Americans can get on with their lives and the president can go forward advancing the interests of the American people without this distraction. and hopefully that'll be taken care of in under a week. But that remains to be seen, John.
All right, Steve, I got a text here from Stan in Virginia Beach for you. He says, hey, ask Steve, the real question is, with the impeachment trial going on, it's now off all the regular channels, only a 15.2 rating on WHRO. What a drop-off. Even Trump's rallies get more coverage on TV. All the ratings now, it's down under where it was when it started to under about 8 million of 300 million people in America. So the ratings are dropping. Network TV took the whole thing off. Only a couple of cable channels run the thing. The Democrat strategy, no doubt, was to change public opinion. That seems to not be working, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, most of America is at work at 1 p.m. when these hearings kick off. Most of Americans are off trying to make better lives for themselves and their families. And when November comes around, they'll look back and say, was it President Trump and his economic policies that helped me and my family? Or was it the party that brought us impeachment and fake Russia collusion and attacked the president and wanted to impeach him from the moment he was inaugurated? Which of those two things is helping me down here in Virginia? And, they'll have to make that choice when they go to the ballot box. But, the ratings are falling, as anyone could expect if you hear the same thing repeated over and over and over. And, most Americans are at work anyway. So it's suckers like you and I that are required to watch this stuff.
I know we're kind of stuck with it. I can't wait till it goes away.
You and I are their ratings.
Basically it. I mean, it's painful. I can't wait till this thing ends. I mean, I'm going to Iowa next week, New Hampshire after that. So, we got to get TVs on our bus, hook up a satellite so we can stay tuned into this thing. Hey, Steve, final question. In a gaggle yesterday that the president did with reporters on Air Force One coming back from the RNC winter meetings in Florida, he talked about he's getting on with work now. He talked about he's formulating his big plan for the Middle East as it relates to Israel and Palestine, saying he's close to actually rolling that out. Do you have any information on that?
I wish I had stuff that I could share, but obviously these are very, very sensitive. Probably one of the most sensitive negotiations that goes on around the world, and wouldn't want to get out ahead of any announcements on this. But you can take this all as a good sign,
right? That
there might be some progress here. The president is very serious about this. He's put his resources towards this. He's put a lot at stake on this. A lot of people don't want this, this peace plan to work. But the president likes to make deals, and this is one of the biggest deals that have been tried and failed for decades and decades. So watch this space, and happy to come back on once we're in a position to share more information.
All right. Well, let's definitely do that. I know it does not involve a two-state solution, and the Palestinians have rejected that out of hand. I've been interviewed their foreign press secretary and the assistant to Hamas, both of them. They don't even know what the plan is, and they're already blasting it. So, to me, it's like wait and see what it is.
Ukraine either, yeah.
Right, exactly. Let's just wait and see what it is, and we'll go from there. But we're out of time. Steve Groves, Deputy Press Secretary for the White House. Steve, thanks for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great weekend.